New York Jets general manager Darren Mougey has some pretty big decisions to make over the coming days, weeks, months, and I would assume or hope not years. Let's get it done before that. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So we all know by now, it's been talked about a fair bit over the past year plus when we saw Sauce Gardner have back-to-back all-pro seasons and we saw the potential and production that Garrett Wilson managed to have despite really bad quarterback play. Everyone knew early on, these guys, when the time comes for them to get paid, they're gonna break the bank. These aren't guys you're gonna be able to wait until after year 5 to give them deals. So now Darren Mougey's got to decide, who does he prioritize between Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson? And Breece Hall, you want to throw him in there because I really think Breece. Do you tag him if he blows up this year? If Breece Hall has a 1,500 yard season this year, and which I said it the other day, I put out a video the other day saying I think this is the year Breece Hall blows up. And I know I've said it before, and I was wrong because he didn't. But I think the Jets' commitment to the run this year with the addition of Membu means a big year for him. So maybe you tag him because I don't think you're giving a running back a long-term big money deal. But corners and receivers, yeah, you give those guys big money long-term deals. And the worst part about Sauce Gardner bouncing back this year is going to be all the fans who bailed on Sauce Gardner pretending they were there the whole time. And I know I said the same thing about Mekhi Becton because I thought Becton was going to come back with the Jets and play at a very high level. He did not. He played sort of average for most of his final season with the Jets. And then over the final, 4 or 5 weeks of the season, he looked atrocious. So bad that I said at the time, like this guy's hurt. He's never, ever, at any point, college, pro, rookie, vet, never looked as bad as he did over his final few games with the Jets. But anyway, just don't want people to say, oh, you said the same thing about Mekhi Becton. And I did, and I was wrong. But I don't think that's going to be the case with Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner is going to have a very good year this year. I think he will. I'm not saying he will be an all-pro, but I think he will be back at that level. And so he should be prioritized as well as Garrett Wilson. And maybe, look, there's been talk that maybe these deals get done before the season. That would be great. Mr. Duran 1969 says Garrett Wilson, get Garrett done first. Garrett to me is interesting because we just saw what happened with Jamar Chase. And this is, listen, it's not like premium corners don't make great money too. But the receiver market just seems to be, and maybe it's not. I'd have to look at the numbers. It feels, and I hate when people say, I feel like this, I feel like that. Because, that doesn't mean it's true just because you feel something. But it feels, fully acknowledging I could be wrong and it may not be the case. Feels like the receiver market is just exploding year after year after year. Like it just goes up so much from one year to the next. And we just saw Jamar Chase with Cincy. They had a contract situation that dragged out for a couple of seasons. And Jamar Chase basically bet on himself. He said, I'm not talking deals anymore. I'm going to go out and play and show what I can do. And then he ends up getting exponentially more than he would have if he'd signed a year or two earlier. So if you're Garrett Wilson, you might be looking at this and thinking, by signing, let's say the Jets make him a fair market value, offer in the coming weeks and months. Before the season kicks off. Jets put together a deal where they say, this puts Garrett where we think he should be. And maybe Garrett even agrees. But maybe Garrett looks at it and goes, well, that money they're offering me now, in a year or two, that's going to be 20, 25, even that go down a little, 15, 20, 25 million more. So am I losing money by signing that deal? And not a little money. All deals go up. We know that. But at the rate receiver deals are going up, does Garrett Wilson say, you know what? I'm going to play a little bit of hardball and I'm going to hang in there and get my, play through the next year or two. And if things keep going the way they are, that means an extra 30 million for me when I sign, or 20 million for me when I sign. So I think the Jamar Chase situation, the way that played out, could impact Garrett Wilson. And maybe he decides to play a little bit of hardball. Sauce, on the other hand, Again, like I said, CB1s get paid too, but I don't feel like their contracts are skyrocketing the way receivers are. And do they want to bet on this? Does Sauce feel like, well, I want to stay here, but I'm coming off a down year, a down year for Sauce, right? I said during the offseason, may have even been during the season, I forget now. But I wrote an article saying that Sauce Gardner was a victim of his own success. He was so good, so fast, that when he went from being arguably a top 2 corner to maybe being a top 8 corner, even Jets fans, a fair number, a surprisingly large number of Jets fans talked about Sauce Gardner like he was trash, overrated, bum. All he does is hold. Trade him now while you can get something for him. Guy's a stud, and he's going to bounce back this year. And then it's a matter of, does he want to, again, sign that deal now? Or does he say, well, I want to have a Sauce type year. I want to have another all-pro year and erase any questions about where I stand among the top corners in the league and get myself a deal that places me right at the top. I don't know if that's what he's going to be looking for. We do see it from players, but Sauce, as I've said before, I've said from the time Sauce was a rookie. And this isn't just, look, I could easily say it about Garrett. I could say it about anyone. Sauce has always struck me as a guy who is mature beyond his years. So does he look at this? Does he approach this and say, look, they're giving me whatever it may be, 30 million. Do I need to wait a couple more years? Because of course there is the risk side of this, folks. There is the what if I try to wait till next year? What if I turn that deal down now, the guaranteed 70, 80, 90, however many million, and boom, get injured. Career ending or career altering, and that's any player. That's the decision you have to make when you're offered a huge deal with tons of guarantees. Do I take the guarantees now and be set for life? Or do I bet on myself, bank on staying healthy, bank on playing well, and get 20, 30 million more than I would have if I'd signed earlier? So what their mentality, what their mindset is, we don't know. But for Darren Mougey, he's got to get both of these guys done as quickly as possible because everything we've just discussed, right? We see it year after year. The market just goes up and up and up and up. And the longer you wait to get these guys done, the more you're going to have to give them and the larger chunk of your cap that's going to take up. Oh, but Glenn, the cap goes up. It does. But does it go up enough that you can spend an extra 10 million on this guy and an extra 14 million on this guy? Like the cap doesn't go up 50 million a year. And you got to pay other guys. Like I said, imagine you do franchise Brees. So now you're franchising Brees. There's a huge pay raise for him, huge pay raise for Garrett, huge pay raise for Sauce. How many of those can you do? Jermaine Johnson, listen, this might be the silver lining, right, to his injury. It's terrible that he was injured. It sucks. I'm not saying it was good. Don't come at me with idiot takes like that. But the fact that he got that injury last year, it obviously cost him the season. And this year I would imagine it's going to mean a slow start for him. You come off an ACL like that, you're probably looking at, and we've talked about this, you're probably looking at half the season before he's 100% full go and playing the way he's capable of playing. So he may not have that huge season that many people would have anticipated a couple of years ago entering year 4. And there's other guys that need to get paid. Brian says in the chat, extend AVT. That would free up some cap room this year. Lock up homegrown talent, secure 1 or 2 guard spots for next year. It's a good point, Brian. I think what they're going to do, this is just a guess, obviously. I would imagine they're going to want to see him stay healthy. I mean, he's had 1 year last year where he played enough and played well enough that you would pay him. But the 2 major injuries the previous seasons, I think you're at the very least get him through half this year. I don't think you pay him now. How we doing, Indy Jets? I don't think you pay him now. Again, just because of that injury history. Listen, that Jets interior is so interesting. And this is what I mean about having to pay guys. John Simpson's a free agent. AVT will be eligible for free agency. Joe Tippmann, by the end of this year, will be coming up on being eligible for a deal. Will McDonald has added weight. What if Will McDonald blows up 13, 14, 15 sacks? He could ask for a new deal after this year. So there's going to be a lot, potentially a lot of young players looking for big money, and that's why these drafts are so important. You need some of these later round guys to hit. You need some of these guys to prove they can play. And that I'll tell you what, that for me, when you look at the salary structure of this team and the Brandon Stevens deal to me still is a head scratcher, just because of what you paid for a guy who allowed like 1,500 yards receiving over the last 2 years at corner when targeted. I mean, there is a very good chance you're going to need a ton of money over the next 2 years to keep some very high level young players on your roster. And hey, what do you know? Glenn's talking about very good players on the Jets roster. People on Twitter mad at me recently. Glenn, stop being so negative. Glenn, stop. Listen, I'm not going to get into this because it's a different topic. I'm not going to get deep into it. But this team has a lot of talent, but this team has a lot of questions. And if we're just going to sit here and pretend that everything's going to be awesome year one, feel free to do it. But I'm really not. I'm not in a place where I can say I think of the 5 or 6 major question marks on this roster, coaches and players, that everything's just going to work out fine. I don't. I think there are going to be bumps in the road. There are going to be hiccups, but look, as I said, Tippmann, McDonald, Sauce, Garrett, Brees, AVT, potentially Simpson, if you can keep both. A lot of young, talented players that you're going to have to keep around. So Darren Mougey's got his work cut out for him. And it may be a situation where he's got to maybe, and I've talked about this. That's why I think the Brees rumors, even having said I think Brees has a big year. If you're the Jets and you start off the year, say you're 2-4, 1-5, somewhere in there, and Brees Hall's lighting it up, you've got Braylon Allen, you've got Isaiah Davis, right? You've got running backs who you believe can play. If a playoff contender has a running back get dinged up, and they call up and say, we'll give you a 3 for Brees. He's a monster right now. He's one of the top 3 running backs, top 5 running back in the NFL this season. We'll give you a 3 for Brees. It gives you a 3, and it unloads a player that you would have to pay a huge sum of money next season. So does Darren Mougey look to move some players come deadline time? I mean, Lazard, I think, is a trade. Lazard may go before the season, but his cap number has been lowered so much that it's really not hugely beneficial to trade him. That's not to say they shouldn't. I'm just saying I don't think he becomes a priority. Like, we've got to move this guy and move his salary. I don't think that'll be the case. Let's see. In the chat. Let's see. Chris B says, hope you're doing well. Little talk in the chat. Hope the Jets community, family, Jet Nation members. Yes, go to Jet Nation. Log in. As I said, sign up, register, jump into the forums. I know there's Twitter. I love Twitter. I talk on Twitter. But forums, you hop on there. Unlimited, characters, and listen, it's a passionate bunch. Gets a little colorful. Sometimes people get a little bit testy. Not everybody can contain their rage or their opinions, but that's okay. That's okay. Everybody can handle it. Well, almost everybody can handle it. Can Darren Mougey handle this cornerback room? What I mean by that, you're obviously, again, in my mind, you're not a Super Bowl contender right now. Still got to add pieces. Still got to add players. How do you do that? You try to take some assets and move them along, bring in some draft picks, and hopefully hit on those picks. And when I look at the Jets roster up and down and the moves they've made recently, by recently, I mean this offseason, by drafting Azariah Thomas after signing Brandon Stevens, you now have, because there's already people who feel like Thomas is going to take that job, whether it's at a camp or midseason or whatever. There are people that think Thomas is going to steal that job and Stevens will be the backup. Maybe Stevens moves to safety. That's a possibility. But when you've got 3 guys who you view as starters, and then you have a couple of guys, and I went because I didn't want to be biased. I didn't want to put on the green colored, green tinted glasses. Quantez Stiggers, you read around about what people were saying when the Jets drafted him, and there was talk that like, oh, this guy could be a starter. This guy just shows up in the CFL one day. Hi guys, I was in a video game league a minute ago, and he leads the league in interceptions, wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. CFL or not, that isn't for a guy that raw, that inexperienced, never being exposed to that level of football and going and not just playing well but shining. That's something. And there are those who felt when the Jets took Stiggers that okay, this guy's a future starter. He's the guy that's going to take over when DJ Reed goes. And then on top of that, go back to last season, and don't give me this preseason. I understand that nobody's putting anybody in the Hall of Fame. But to me, and I've said this a million times, you've heard me say it before, in my mind, Jarek Bernard-Converse, one of the most improved players on the team last year. The way he played from the previous year to last season and the preseason, he looked phenomenal. Okay, phenomenal may be too strong a word. He looked very, very good for a guy who was bouncing back and forth from safety to corner and not really a lot of stability. So if you're Darren Mougey, showcase these guys in the preseason. Stiggers, JBC, again, because you have Stevens, you got Sauce, you're gonna lock him up, hopefully. I mean, you got to get that done. But you got bodies, you got some talented bodies in that room. Even if you keep JBC and say, look, we're going to keep him as a versatile piece, I say keep him at corner. That's where the value is. But I mean, listen, if he's not gonna, if you're just flat out not gonna play him because you have so much depth there, then fine. Let him work at safety if things aren't going well there. But I don't know. I've talked about it when they drafted JBC, and I went back and watched his K-State film. I thought, no way you're moving this guy to safety. I thought he could be a decent corner. And they moved him to safety and then back to corner. And then there was really no talk for a while about where he was working because he wasn't on the active roster. So you weren't seeing him on game days, but nobody's really, because look, it happens when you're the, 47, 48, 49, 50th guy on the roster and you're not seeing the field, people don't talk about you. But as a fan, I'm always wondering, what do they do? What's going on with this guy in practice? Where is he working? What do they see him as? And who do we have on the show? Might have been, I forget. I'm not going to say because I forget, but I know we had an insider on at one point, and that was one of my questions. Like, hey, what are they doing with Jarek Bernard-Converse? Is he playing corner? He should be a corner. And I would imagine with Aaron Glenn, with what he knows at that position, with what he's done with DBs, if Jarek Bernard-Converse takes another step, like that dude is ready to play. If Stiggers takes another step, he may very well be ready to play. And I'm not saying, I've said this in the past. Said in the past when the Jets have depth at a spot, oh, maybe move this guy. Oh, fans get mad at me. We have good players. Why do you want to trade them? Like, stop crying. You can't keep everybody. And if you want to keep them, that's fine. But if I'm Darren Mougey and I know I got some gaps to fill on my roster, I'm gonna try to go get some picks. Brian in the chat says Stiggers to the Niners makes sense. Depth and the fact that the Jets brass would want to collect draft picks. Yeah, and if Saleh liked Stiggers enough and liked what he saw enough that he goes to the 49ers and says, look, go get this guy. Even if it's for a late pick, again, my hope would be that Stiggers, JBC, those guys who have that value, you hope they shine, like ball out in the preseason and get you some value if you do move them. Because, moving them for a late day 3, I would rather just keep them at that point. Like, go out and get an early day 3 or better if you can. Again, if they play well in the preseason. Easier said than done. So it's basically a situation where the Jets have a lot of talent at a spot. And there's some, one thing we're going to look at here at some point is the depth on the O-line. I think there are some guys there who are solid players who, when given the opportunity, have looked pretty good. And Darren Mougey will have some decisions to make there. Do you keep these guys? Do you try to move a couple of them because you want depth on the O-line, but if you feel like you can add assets, you feel like you can add picks for a player, maybe you go for it. Lots of decisions for Mougey to make. As I said, in the coming days, weeks, months. What do you do with Brees? What do you do with Sauce? I think my best guess is Sauce gets done first. Garrett maybe doesn't even get done this year. And not because I'm negative, not because I'm hating on Garrett, but I think his agent might be in his ear saying, dude, don't be in a rush. We can wait this thing out. You can make what you're going to make this year, and then next year you'll make, X amount over what they're offering you this year. So I hope I'm wrong. I'm not saying I think it's a lock or that's the way it definitely is going to play out. But I think if I had to guess, unless look, and Indy Jets says Wilson gets done first, maybe the Jets do. Maybe the Jets make him the priority and say we're going to make him such a great offer that it's going to benefit. It's going to make it worth his while to sign now, and maybe you do that. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be very long. I would imagine one of them gets done before the season or by preseason. And Sauce has spoken optimistically that his side is talking to the Jets and they feel good about it. Both have said they want to stay. The Garrett thing, like I said, surprised me, but good. I mean, I want the guy to stay. I'm just surprised he wants to stay because he looked about as unhappy as a human being can look playing for this team the last couple of years. But let's hope they get it done. Let's hope Mougey gets that done. Get Garrett done. Get Sauce done. Come up with a plan for Brees Hall and move forward with this thing. But that's going to wrap this one up. Have a good one, Jets.